In this video, I'm going to demonstrate the storm Photoshop action. So here is my stock photo that I'm going to use, and I'll put a link to this photo down in the description so you can download it and follow along. So what we're going to be doing is playing the action and going to create all these effects. So the default color of the action is actually blue, but I'll show you how to change the colors easily. So I'll just click through a few more examples that I've got. So that's the default color there. And every time you run the action, the arrangement of the clouds, the light, and the lightning and everything will be randomized each time. So those two there, I just ran the action twice, and that's the two different variations that I got. And so what I'm also going to do in this tutorial is show you how to combine multiple actions. So here I've just run the storm action, and then I flattened all the layers, and then I ran my fire action on top of it as well. So that way you can sort of build up multiple effects. Okay, I'll close all these down and start from the beginning. Okay, so a few things we just need to go through to make sure your Photoshop file is set up correctly and you're not going to run into any problems. Firstly, look into the layer panel, and your photo layer should look identical to this. It should say background and have that lock symbol. So if it doesn't, so I'll just set this up so that it doesn't. So if you open up your photo and it's called something different, it doesn't say background and have a lock symbol, what you need to do is go to layer, new background from layer, and that will just set it up correctly. Okay, so still in the layer panel, go right up to the top right hand corner icon here and go to panel options. Down the bottom here, make sure add copy to copied layers and groups is selected. If it's not selected, then the action won't work. Click OK. Next, go to image mode and make sure you're in RGB color mode and 8 bits of channel is selected. Next, just go to, again, image size. You want to be using a high resolution photo for this action. So you can see the size of my photo here is 2100 by 3200. I noticed that's probably the best range. From 2000 to 4000 pixels is really good. Just sort of steer clear of using low resolution photos, like under 1000 pixels. I'd probably say that 1500 pixels is really the lowest you want to go. The action will still work, but the effects look much more detailed and sort of crisp with high resolution photos. Okay, so next what we need to do is load up the actions panel. So go to window, actions. It'll pop up on the side here. Go up to this icon here, get that drop down menu, and go to load actions and select storm.atm. It'll pop up here. What we also need to do now is load up the brushes that came with the download. The brushes are essential to making this action work. So if you just hit B on the keyboard, that'll get your brush tool out. And if you right click anywhere over the canvas here, it'll bring up the brushes. So I've just got the standard brushes here, and just go to this little cog, and you can either select load brushes or replace brushes. If you select load brushes, they're just going to load into here and you're going to keep the original brushes, so it'll just add on down the bottom here. If you go to replace brushes, it'll replace all these ones here. So I'm just going to go to replace brushes and select stormbrushes.abr. And so these are the brushes here that create all the effects. I've just also left a soft brush here, which I'll show you why now. So I'm just going to select this soft brush, just like that. Now what I need to do is create a new layer. So go to Layer, New Layer, and this must be called Brush. B-R-U-S-H, all in lowercase. Anything uppercase and the action won't work. Select it, click OK. See my brush layer there. So what you need to do now with the brush layer selected, make sure the brush layer is selected. You want to brush over your subject or highlight your subject however you want to do it. So this is the character here that I want to highlight, and so you can either use the brush tool, you can just brush away over your photo like that, or you can use some of the tools here to the side. You can use the magic wand tool, or I like to use the magnetic lasso tool because he's quite contrasted against the background there. This sort of does a good job of tracing around the edges. But what I might do, I've already traced around this guy. I'll just close this down for a sec and I'll open up, where is it, photo brushed. Okay, so here we go. I've got my brush layer, I traced around him, you can see that there. So all the effects are going to grow around the area that you highlight. Okay. Now this is pretty much ready to go. Now there's a couple of important things just to check before running this action. Firstly, if you hit B on the keyboard again to get your brushes out, you need to make sure that the opacity of your brush is at 100%. Okay. If your brush opacity is low at like 69%, the action will actually run into errors. So it must be 100%. Okay. So if you run the action and there's a strange error, start again and check the opacity of your brush and that it's at 100%. Okay, and anytime before running an action, I strongly recommend that you just go to Edit, Purge, All, and that'll just wipe out any history that's banked up inside Photoshop, because sometimes having a big bank up of history can actually affect the playback of the action. You might, you run the action once, it'll run perfectly. You run it again, there'll be a weird error. Just purge the history, but it rarely happens, but I just like to do it every time, okay? So that's it, everything's ready to go. All you need to do now is select the storm action here and click play down the bottom. If you want to know how long the action's got to play back, just twirl this open. And as you click play, this scroll bar is just going to go down like this. So all the steps, so you can get an idea of how much longer it's got to go. The action takes about 2 minutes to play back. Might be faster on your computer. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to click play, I'm going to fast forward the video. I'm just going to get to the result, and we're going to talk about all the different layers, and then I'm going to open up another photo and I'm going to show you how to combine multiple actions. Okay, so the action's finished and that's the result I got. So I'm just going to minimize the actions panel and go inside the layer panel now. So first thing you want to do is collapse all these folders, because as you can see it's pretty messy, and it'll just help with the workflow a bit. So to do that, with the storm folder, it should already be selected. Just hold down Control Alt or Command Option on a Mac and click on this arrow next to the storm folder, and that just collapses all the folders. Okay, so firstly up the top here, I've still got the brush layer hanging around, so if you wanted to run the action again, just shift select these two folders, delete them, and then you can just click play on the action again. And like I said, every time you run the action, even if you use this same brushed area, the arrangement of all the clouds, the lightning, all the effects are going to be different every time. So I like to run the action, around 5 times per photo, and I'll just pick from those 5 which one looks the best, and then I'll just work on customizing it a little bit. Okay, I'll come back to the adjustments folder. That's just got some color options and some ways we can affect sort of the overall brightness and contrast. I'll come back to that. We'll go straight into the storm folder, and I'll just go from the top down. So this top one here, by default it's off. If you turn it on, it's just a little spotlight, so you can see that there. What you can also do is just double click on this box here and use that angle slider here and change the angle of that light. If you wanted multiple spotlights, you can just hit Control J or Command J, duplicate that, rotate it again, and you can even change the scale, make it really thin. But that's there anyway, it's just a subtle effect. By default it's off. Let's just zoom in a bit here. Photo Edge Glow, this, if I turn this folder on and off, you can see that there just highlights the edges of the area that you brushed, like that, and just has a little bit of a glow to it. And you can see here with this mask, if I'll just go inside this mask for a second, if I hold down Alt or Option on the Mac and click on that mask, I can go inside. So anywhere in black, it's actually going to hide all the layers inside that folder. Anything that's white, it's going to make it visible. So you can see that the glow sort of tapers off about halfway down here. Okay, but if I hold down Shift and I temporarily just hide that mask, you can see that there's the glows there. So if you wanted to continue the glows down throughout your subject, just hold down Shift and click on that mask and it'll temporarily hide it. Okay, so going inside here, there's 6 different layers that build up the glow. So if it's too strong, you can you can just turn off a bunch like that. So you don't need to use it at its full intensity. Or you could select the folder, look at the layer, the folder opacity is at 70%. You can sort of just click on this word opacity and drag to the left to lower it. So 0, 100. So you can sort of find a point that you're happy with. If you want to make it a lot more intense, you could duplicate the entire folder. Just hit Control or Command J on the folder. You can see that there, so it's boosted that right up. If you wanted all this on one layer, just hit Control E or Command E. It'll flatten all the layers inside that folder onto one layer there. And then you can blur that out more. So I can go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and I can sort of just crank that out a bit. So you can play around with the Photo Edge Glow that way. Here's the photo folder. If I turn this on and off, you see that it's basically housing our subject. So if we go inside, we'll talk about how this is all set up. So down the bottom here, this is the main photo. You can see that there. This layer here, photo toning, if I turn that one on and off, you can see that it just adds like a little bit of sharpening over your photo. You can see that as I turn it on and off, just makes it pop a bit more. The opacity of this layer is set at 50%, so you can crank that all the way up to 100% if you wanted to look a lot more detailed. Black and white, so this layer here, I've got in brackets opacity, just telling you that the way this layer works is to adjust the opacity. Basically, it's at 60%, so it's if I bring this to 0, there's not much colour in this photo originally. You can see just around I'll just zoom in a bit here, so you can see around his face here whether it actually is colour. That's at 0, if I bring it to 100, it desaturates the photo. You can see that there. Bring it back to 0, brings all the colour back in. So you can sort of play around with the opacity of this to adjust how much colour you want in your photo. I think by default I had it at 60%, so it sort of just blends a bit better with the background colour. Okay. Strong photo overlay, if you want your photo to be a lot more punchy, right, see that there, just turn that one on. So you can see it overrides a lot of the glow and sort of just makes it stick out from the background a lot more. And what you'll notice on these 3 layers here is that they've all got this same mask as the Photo Edge Glow. Okay, now if I hide them all, if I just hold down Shift and I'll shift click on all those masks, you can see that now my photo, well, the bottom half is now on top of all the clouds, and it doesn't really blend that well. So the reason why I've done that, I've added these masks, is to make it look like your subject is coming out of the clouds just helps, I think, with the effect. So just keep that in mind, that halfway up your canvas, so if I zoom out here, so at the halfway point of your canvas, it's going to blend down into the clouds. But if you wanted to sort of brush, if I hide this mask, say if I wanted to brush on a little bit more my subject here, all I can do is grab a black brush, hit B on the keyboard, I'll use my soft brush here, select the mask, and I can just brush away down here. And it's not coming up, I think, because let's try that again. Sorry, it's meant to be white. So brush white to bring in your photo, and black is to reduce it. I always get confused with that. You can see that there, I'm brushing that layer in. So you can control where you want these layers to appear just by brushing into the mask. So I'm just going to go back a few steps here. Okay, or you could double click on this mask and lower the density. Grab this handle here. See, as I'm lowering the density there, it's coming back in. Just like that. And nothing to keep in mind with this photo layer here, if you twirl open this FX handle here, it's got an inner glow and an outer glow applied. So if you turn the effects on and off, you can see how that's affecting the design. I'm just going to turn this off for a sec. Whoops, wrong one. So you can see that there. So if you think those are too intense, you can turn that off, just like that. Okay, I've got this adjustment layer here, photo brightness. You can double click on this and play with these handles here to adjust the brightness of your photo. Okay, gone through all of those. So yeah, just make sure to use those masks if you want to reveal more of your photo where it's hidden under the clouds. Sparkles, if I turn this one on and off, you can see what those are. So if you look around his arm here, there's those little glowing dots. Okay, you don't need to use this folder if you don't want to. You can just turn it off if you don't want the sparkles. If you go inside, there's just two layers here. If you want more sparkles, just Control J, Command J on the folder, just like that, and you can now move that entire folder around, just like that. Flames texture, if you turn this one on and off, where's a good point? I could zoom in here, maybe around here. Let's turn the sparkles off. So the flame texture is subtle. You see around his arm here. You see that's those flames there. So that just helps with the overall build up of all the textures. So if you don't want that on, you can just turn that folder off. It's very subtle anyway. But if you go inside, it's again just two different layers. If you want it to be more prominent again, Control J. You can see that pop a lot more now. Clouds, if I turn that on and off, you can see that that's all the clouds there. If you go inside, there's just two different layers, clouds 1, clouds 2. If I hold down Alt or Option on the Mac, click on this layer and drag it up, it's made a copy. You can make the clouds look a lot darker. And say, I'll just turn it off for a second. Say if I'm looking around the design and I love this section just to be dark, but everywhere else I wanted the original colours here, just use this mask. So currently everything's visible, so what I'm going to do is just hit Control I or Command I, flip it so that now I've hidden everything. So now if I grab a white brush and I start brushing, I can brush on just where I want that layer to appear. Just like that. And if you want to balance between the two, you might be thinking that that's too strong. that's a bit too light. Again, use the density handle here to sort of blend, whoops, sorry, the feathering one, to sort of blend between the two, like that. Okay, clouds, lightning, pretty self-explanatory, that's that there. Okay, if you go inside, there's 3 different layers here, and what I like to usually check is turn off lightning 3, because sometimes it can be a bit too intense. So if you look into the into this side here, as I turn it on and off, see how it's probably a bit too bright, so I just turn it off. But that really depends on your photo and the resolution of your photo. Sometimes you might want to duplicate the lightning folder. Hit Control J, and if I zoom out a bit, you might want to move this entire folder around to add more lightning in different areas. Okay, so say if I move this folder up here, let's have a look. So say I like this lightning around here, it's this top section, but I don't want to use anywhere else. Again, use the mask. Currently I've just masked it out so the lightning doesn't intercept with excuse me, our subject. So if I just fill this mask in black and grab my white brush again, I can just brush on that lightning there where I want it to appear. So you can really control where you want the lightning to appear. Okay, moving on down. Now one thing, sorry I forgot to mention with the lightning, if you turn off the clouds folder, you get a better idea of where all the lightning appears. And sometimes, if you brush away on the clouds mask, grab a black brush to remove it, you can sort of brush down onto the lightning, see like that there. So you can, if I keep turning that one on and off, you can take a look around the design, have a look where the lightning looks cool, like maybe like around this gun here. And I'll select the mask, and I'll just brush a little bit away like that. See that? Okay, background lighting. So if I turn this one on and off, so that creates a lot of the gradients in the background. If you go inside here, firstly there's darkened edges. So this one here just adds like a soft vignette around the edges of our canvas. It's like that. You hit Control J, you can make it a lot more prominent. Middle light, this is the light that runs through the middle there. Okay, you can double click on this box here and use the angle again, and you can adjust the angle of that light if you wanted to. You can play around with the scale, make it much more narrow or wide. Okay, this layer here is one you probably want to play around with. It's called darken bottom. So if you turn this one on, it will add a black gradient at the bottom here. So it looks like the clouds are sort of rising up through this darkness. It might be a look that you prefer. Okay, so turn that one on and off. So it sort of overwrites all these lights and effects here. If you double click on this, same again, you can use the scale there to make it just like that. Cancel that. Okay, that's the background lighting folder. Light rays, so these are the rays of light that come out from behind the clouds. See that there? And there's a bunch of layers here. They're all in the same spot, all these light rays, so all these do, if you turn them off, is just lowers the intensity of them. So you can turn them on one by one to adjust the overall intensity of those lights, or you could use the entire folder opacity. If you want it to be much more intense, again, Control J or Command J on the folder, just like that. Okay, so now we will, so there was also the background color here. That's the recommended color. I suggest you leave it on. Okay, if you turn it off, it will sort of fall onto. If you turn off the background lighting folder and also the background color layer, it will reveal the original photo background, so you can see the floor there from our original stock photo. So if you want it to fall onto the background with the original photo, turn those two off. Okay, I might just check. I'll just leave it on. Alright, okay, so we'll go back up into the adjustments folder now. So this one here, overall sharpening, this just, does what it says. It just adds a little bit of sharpening to, if I just zoom all the way in here, I'll just tell you one thing to be wary of. So if I turn it on and off, you can see how that's, if you look around this area here around his arm, all the sparkles, sort of boosts up the definition of those sparkles. But just be careful that if I turn off the sparkles and then turn this back on, it just adds a tiny little bit of residue from where those sparkles were. So you don't have to use the sharpening layer. It's more for if you're completely happy with the default look that you get and you're not moving elements around. Okay, so I'll just turn this off for the moment and I'll turn the sparkles back on. Okay, so what have we got in here? Overall saturation. I'll zoom back out. If you want to increase the saturation of all the colours, just double click on this layer here and crank up the saturation here, so you can really increase, have it less saturated, black and white. Okay. Overall brightness. This layer here, you can just adjust the overall brightness if you think it's slightly off. Just use these handles here. But I think this is looking pretty good, so I'm going to leave it. Overall contrast. This is always one I like to play around with. Again, I've got in brackets opacity, so check out the opacity. So if I drag this opacity to 0, it really does flatten out all the colours, and I'll bring it to 100. Much more contrasted, much more of a cinematic look. So by default it was 80, so grab this opacity handle, drag it back and forth, and get it to a level that looks pretty cool. I also like to change this to overlay, which will make it much more intense. I'll drag this back to 0, 100, I'll slowly bring it down. So that looks pretty cool, so definitely play around with that one. Overall contrast. Now these folders here are just some color options. So the way they work is that you just turn on the eye for that folder, just like that. Okay, and what you can also do is blend multiple together. So if I turn on 2 and 3, okay, you can just blend multiple together. So just go down the list here and turn them on, but you can control it a bit further. So what I like to do for this fire effect, well actually firstly I'll talk about how these folders are set up. So if you go inside one, you've got your glow color. So this is that main glow that emits. I'll just turn on the default blue, so because we're familiar with that for the moment. So glow color, you can see that there. So here you can adjust the overall glow. So if you just grab this opacity handle again, bring it to 0, you can slowly bring it up. If you think the default is too bright, just bring it down. You can also double click on this box here and change the color of that glow, just like that. Okay, there's the base color there, so you can change the color there if you want. So they work, the base color and the glow color sort of work hand in hand to build up these color looks. And the selected color here, if you double click on this, go into neutrals, you can play around with all these handles here to again play around with the color. Just going to undo that. So what I like to do to create a fiery effect, I will turn these two on, 2 and 3. I'll go inside 3 and I'll turn off the glow for this one. So I'll turn on the glow, which I turned off before for this one. So you can see that's a really cool fire effect now. And then I also always play around with the contrast here with the fire effect. It looks pretty good, a bit more contrasted. Okay, so I'm going to zoom right in here and check out details. So yeah, really cool effect. Lots of detail. Alright, zoom out. So play around, yeah, with mixing these folders together. And what you can also do to take it a bit further, you can use these, you can group them, Control G, you know, and you could use only a little bit of this layer, and then you could turn on another one, you can use a little bit of this layer's opacity. So you can build up your own sort of colour looks just by adjusting the opacity of those layers, grouping them together so that this is more formed as one. Okay. But I'm going to keep it how it was because I really like that. Okay, so that is essentially it. That's how you use the storm action. It's very simple. If you don't want, you know, just keep in mind that if you don't want all the lightning and the sparkles and the flames texture, just turn them off. So if you just want the clouds, turn off sparkles, flames, turn off these lightning layers, and now we've just got clouds. Okay? No, and again, that base, that darkened bottom if you don't want it. So that looks really cool. But yeah, if you want all the extras, turn them on. Just like that. So what I'm going to do now is open up another example, and I'm going to show you how to combine multiple actions together so I can brush on a fire effect. So now I'm going to show you how to combine multiple actions and how I can add this flamed effect on top of everything else. So I'll just close this guy down for a sec. And so what I've got here is a stock photo. I just ran the action on the storm action, and this was the default result that I got. So I'm just going to go through the motions here. I'm just going to hit Control, Alt, or Command Option on the Mac and click on this storm arrow, folder arrow, collapse all the folders. And what I don't want all those extras, so I'm going to turn off sparkles, flames, and lightning. So now what I've got is just the clouds. I'm going to turn off the sharpening layer because you can see that's leaving a bit of details hanging around. So now I've just got the clouds, and what I might do actually is just flip this over to overlay. I'm just going to adjust this contrast a bit, just like that. Okay, so I'm happy with that now, and what I need to do is flatten this design onto one layer. So all I'm going to do is hold down, select the adjustments folder, select the background layer here, hit Control or Command E, and that just flattens the entire design onto one layer now. So now I've got my background layer, it's locked. I don't need the brush layer because with the fire action I need to brush onto a different area. So I'm just going to delete that. Now I need to load up the fire action. So I just open up the actions panel again, and I'll go to load actions, select fire ATN. Let's keep in mind that the fire Photoshop action is a separate download. It's not included in the storm action. So I'll put a link to the fire action below. Okay, so here it is here. Now with the fire action, that comes with brushes as well, so you need to just load up the brushes. So again, just hit B, right click, and I'll just go to load brushes, fire brushes. There they are there. So that's all ready to go. Now I need to create a new layer again, so layer, new layer. It needs to be called brush, and doesn't matter what color you pick. And the way the fire action works is that you just brush over your photo where you want to apply the fire. The fire will grow a little bit out from the area that you brush, so keep that in mind. You know, this axis kind of disappeared a bit here, but I'll just brush it in here anyway. So now your fire is going to be applied in those areas there. So that's all ready to go. This action takes about 1 minute to 2 minutes to play back. So again, I'm just going to click play and then fast forward the video to the result. Okay, so now the fire action has stopped, and this is the default result I got for this. If you are looking for a lot of sort of customization techniques on the fire action, just watch its tutorial. Again, it works in a similar way to Storm, that each time you run the action, it's going to have a completely different variation on the flames and everything. So keep that in mind. So what I'm going to do now, I'll collapse these folders, Control Alt or Command Option on the Mac, click that, and I'll just jump inside here. This one has a color grade applied to it, so I'll turn that one off. Just keep that in mind that when with each one of my actions, I typically have an adjustments folder or a default color grade applied. So just keep that in mind if you're blending multiple actions together. You don't want to keep stacking up all the different color grades. Just turn them off if you don't want them. So I'll turn that one off. And yeah, there's just 4 folders here. And what I might do is turn off the smoke, because actually it's not too bad. I'll leave it on actually. There's these handles here. We can flip it to white smoke. I always check that out to see if it suits this design or not. No, I'll go into the flames. Flames 3, I've got all these 3 brightness handles on the flames. There's flames 1, 2 and 3. You can grab these brightness handles and play around with that there, so you can make the flames look a lot more prominent. So what I might do is make a copy of all these 3. I'm just going to drag it down. I'm going to increase this, because looking around, I love how the flames sort of come out the bottom here of the axe and at the side here, but not so much this side. So I'm just going to use this mask on the flames, hit B, brush black to remove it, and I'll just keep everything else. Embers, I might duplicate that entire folder. I will scale that up. So it looks like there's sort of sparks flying out. Just like that. I might use that mask. Don't want them down here, or maybe just a little bit. Anyway, just check out the fire tutorial if you want more an in-depth overview of how these layers and folders work. But that is essentially how easy it is to combine multiple photo effects together. I have currently over 50 different photo effect actions, and they can all be combined together. And that's the simple process to go through. You just merge the layer, merge the design onto one layer when you're happy with the first action, create your brush layer and brush on the area where you want to apply the next effect, and you can keep building and building that way. Okay, so yeah, that's it. If you have any questions or issues with the action, just send me an email and I'll help you out. Yeah, if not, have fun experimenting with it. Thanks.